A warm greetings to one and all. On behalf of EC Department of Francis Xavier Engineering College and our entire team, I wish to welcome all the participants to this webinar session. I request Mr. Premanan, Assistant Professor of EC Department, to commence the session with a prayer.
Prayer. Father, we thank you and praise you, God, for all the blessings, for all the goodness, for all the happiness you have showered upon us. Father, we pray for our college, our chairman, all the teaching and non-teaching faculty members, God. Bless them and be with them and give them good health, God. God, we pray for this professor webinar series, God. Bless all the participants, bless our resource person, God. Let this webinar session be useful for every participant who joined us in this meeting. God, we pray for this lockdown situation, God. Let the nations be free from this COVID-19 disease, God. Let all the nations flourish like before. We thank God and we praise you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Now I invite COE, Francis Xavier Engineering College and Professor of Electronics Department, Dr. G. Rajakumar, to say a few words about our department.
Good morning to one and all gathered here. It's my immense pleasure to share our department of ECE. Our department of ECE started in the year 2000 with the intake of single. At present, we are having double intake of UG program ECE, and we are having two PG program. One is VLSI design and another one is ME communication system. Our UG program is accredited by NBA. Also, UG program is permanently affiliated to Anna University, Chennai, and our department is DST FIST supported department. In the academic aspect, we are having 32 university ranks are produced for the past 5 years of Anna University record, as well as in the placement aspect, past 4 years we are producing 98.4% of placement record in various MNC like TCS, CTS, Wipro, and Siemens, and very good excellent in the core companies also. In entrepreneurship aspect, we are having the AICT sponsor entrepreneurship cell is established in the college. With the support of AICT entrepreneurship cell, many number of entrepreneurs are produced from our department. We are having 6,000 plus alumni are engaged in our department from right from 2000 to 2020, as well as our students are participated in project competition, paper presentation in many NIRF ranking institutions like IITs, Anna University, as well as the NIT. Moreover, in our department is a Anna University recognized research center. So the faculties are engaging the research in the Anna University recognized research center. In the faculty aspect, eight faculty members are completed the PhD, and remaining faculties are pursuing the PhD program. Moreover, we are having the strong SIG group, special interest group for research, for carrying their research in different dimension in the area of VLSI, communication system, and the networks in the image processing field. Our students are very good rapport with the faculty with the support of mentor-mentee scheme. Also, in the mentor-mentee scheme, the students are counseled with the mentor with their career as well as the placement and the higher studies. Moreover, our department is a very good tie-up with the MNC because 51 companies are MOU with our department. Also, very great achievement in our department having with the strong incubation center inside the department with the tie-up of Weekend Pro, which is helpful for the placement as well as the internship. So very strong vibrant department of EC in the FX campus, which is enlightening to all the department in the achievement of academics, placement, and all the aspects. I wish you all the best for the webinar with the participant. Thank you.
Now I call upon Mrs. Reggie Timna, Assistant Professor of ECE Department, to introduce our resource person.
Good morning. I'm here to introduce the speaker of today's webinar, Emerging Trends and Solutions for Low Power VLSI Circuits, Mrs. M. Navanitha Velamal, Associate Professor, Department of ECE, Francis Xavier Engineering College. She completed her bachelor degree in Electronics and Communication in the year 2003 from Anonmaniyam Sundanar University. She completed her master degree in VLSI design in the year 2007 from Anna University, Chennai. She is pursuing her PhD program in Information and Communication, Anna University, Chennai. She has 15 years of teaching experience from the year 2005 to till date. She is working as Associate Professor in Francis Xavier Engineering College. She has attended many national and international workshops. She has presented papers in international conference and published papers in international journals. Her research interest is on signal processing enhancement, VLSI design, system on chip design. She has delivered technical seminars and special lectures on various topics in workshops, faculty development program, etc. She has produced 100% result in the UG subjects VLSI design, digital electronics, embedded system, and PG subjects MEMS and NEMS, system on chip design, testing of VLSI circuits, ASIC design. She has also headed our department and got the Best Department Award in the year 2015. She has organized various state and national level technical symposium for our students. She has organized national level project expo. She developed electronic devices laboratory and organized practical oriented short-term courses. She guided many UG and PG projects, and also she is the present PG project coordinator. Last but not the least, she is very talented, broad-minded, self-motivated, enthusiastic, and friendly professor in our department. Thank you.
I request Professor M. Navanitha Vellamal to handle the session.
I welcome you all for this webinar on emerging trends and solutions for low power VLSI circuits. I will start this session with VLSI design flow. VLSI design flow starts with design idea and down to the actual implementation, that is the product design. Product design should pass through many steps, that is starts with requirement, specification, synthesis, simulation, layout, testability analysis, and many more. Here, digital IC design flow is given in terms of the flow chart. Digital IC design flow is different from the analog IC design. Here, the design entry start with the requirement. Requirement is an informal information given by the customer. This requirement is converted into redefined formation, that is in detail description about what we want. That is called as in specification. Specification normally written in terms of UML language or otherwise pseudocode. So from this pseudocode, it is rewritten in terms of what the Verilog coding or VHDL coding by the programming engineer, that is Verilog engineer or VHDL engineer. So from this code, we are going to see about the synthesis report. Synthesis report will give the detailed analysis about the components used for this design, and also it will give the detailed analysis about the timing and also timing constraints. So once this synthesis report is satisfied from the levels of abstraction, then we are moving for simulation. Simulation will give the output of the codes. So once this code is verified and it is given to the backend design. So the first three part we are called it as in logic design, that is front end design. So the remaining part is taken care by the backend engineer. It comprised of three parts. One is floor planning, placement, routing. Floor planning will give the decision about where the components are placed and how well it is placed. So these placement will give the report about whether it is properly placed in the correct area or not. So there are some of the algorithms is used to check out the placement. Similarly, we are moving with routing. So after this placement, the interconnection has done between the blocks. So once the interconnection, that is the wiring is given, so we can able to get the circuit extraction. Circuit extraction will give the R and C components. R and C component is nominal value, then we can stop this design process here. We can generate GDS2 file and it is given to the fabrication process. If this circuit extraction is not giving the correct value, or if it exceeds above the value or above the threshold value, then we can go for back annotation. Back annotation is nothing but from the last one into the first one again. So the time required to compute all the process once again is a tedious task process. So the product will not come to this time to market in a correct time. So we cannot go with the back annotation. So we can pass through all the steps in a proper timing, and also we have to check all the abstractions in the correct time itself. So that we can get the product in a correct time and it is reached to the market in a correct time period. In here also we are going to see about the low power reduction, and also we are moving for the area calculation as well as the speed, and also we are going to consider the cost is another important factor. Right. So in VLSI, these three are main constraints. One is area, speed, and the power. And another constraint is what? The cost, manufacturing cost, and also the product which is given to the customer. That also we are going to consider it. Right. So here, why we are worrying about the power? So as the technology is moving faster, that is now the technology is working on below 3 nanometer technology, is under 1.25 nanometer technology currently, I think so. So here the million and million number of transistors are inside the chip. That is, so now this technology will work on more than Moore's law. So if more number of transistors are inside the chip, definitely the heat will be the problem. So heat is dissipated from this chip. So why we are consider about the low power? So with the advent of the battery powered system, the growth of the battery powered system, we are looking for the low power. Also, users need for mobility, portability, and reliability, and also cost and environmental effects. Designing a circuit for low power has almost so much very important in the present day scenario. It also affects the VLSI chips are designed particularly in physical design, that is back-end design of the VLSI chip. Some of the technique, that is design rules, are incorporated at various stages of the design so that the final product of the chip consumes less power. The topic of today's discussion is low power VLSI design. Power consumption is very big challenge in modern day VLSI design. Power consumption is taken care. Here almost all the devices we use today are portable in nature. Here these portable devices all run on battery power, right? Yes, our mobile phones, our laptops, our notebooks, our tabs, these devices are portable and which all get the power from the battery that is built inside it. Traditionally, in 70s and 80s, area and delay were the most important parameters. In the 80s and 90s, the testability came into the picture. Yes, testing is needed. The role of testing is to detect whether something went wrong, and the role of diagnosis is to determine what exactly went wrong. Correctness and effectiveness of the testing is most important for quality products. But now 2000 onwards, with the advent of the battery operated mobile devices, that is portable devices, power has become very important fourth parameter in this design space. Power is a fourth parameter in the design space. So most of the chip today is built by CMOS technology, right? The power dissipated is calculated from the current flowing from the power supply. Here there are some of the terminology here is used. Instantaneous power is nothing but simply the product of I and V. So here energy is taken over the time interval 0 to t of instantaneous power. So we calculate the average simply divided by t. So we will be getting what? Average power. So here we are moving with the type of power dissipation. So here this power is broadly classified into three types. One is dynamic power, short circuit power, static power. Here the dynamic power from the name implies that is something which is depending on the dynamics of the circuits, right? So in order to discuss this dynamic power, we will have a simple example, right? This is an CMOS inverter. This CMOS inverter consists of PMOS on the top and NMOS on the bottom. Here let we say this input is A, it is connected to both the gates of PMOS as well as NMOS. Let's say F is an output, it is complement of A bar. A switches from low to high, then F will be switching from high to low. Similarly, when again A switches back from high to low, F switches from low to high. So that means whenever F from high to low, C is getting discharged. Similarly, when F goes from this low to high, C is getting charged. That is, this path normally we are call it as that is the charging path we are call it as in pull up path, and discharging path we are call it as pull down path. Pull down path is through NMOS and pull up path is from PMOS. So here consider the time period T. In this time period, the F is number of times switching, that is number of charging and discharging of this output is given in terms of the number of up and downs. So the charging is given here and the discharging is denoted here. The charging and discharging takes place multiple number of times. So we are call it as in this F switching is nothing but frequency of switching. That is, the output is switched from multiple number of times. That is, whenever the A changes frequently, F also changes. So thereby you will be having multiple number of switching activity here. So this activity we are call it as in frequency of switching. So it takes place over the time interval T. So it is called as in number of switching. See, so here the dynamic power is required to charge and discharge the load capacitance when transistor switch. One cycle involves a rising and falling output. On each rising Q, that is C into VDD, is required to charge the output node to VDD. So similarly, on falling output, the load capacitor discharges to ground. So this takes place over the time interval what T. So this one is repeated here. It is T into FSW times the output switching takes place. T into FSW times the output switching takes place, right? So now we are moving for the calculation of this average dynamic power. Average dynamic power is written here 1 by T times integral of 0 to T into I into V into dt. So here, as you all know, the current I is stated in terms of the capacitor and the rate of change of voltage, right? So see here, I is nothing but C, that is capacitance times the rate of change of voltage. So now I am going to substitute this I dt is equivalent to C into dV by dt. So here VDD is constant, so thereby I am taking VDD is constant, take it out. And instead of this IDD, I am going to substitute it into C into dV, and dt and get cancelled. So now the C into over this integral, you will be getting C into V. So V is charging towards the maximum limit of during the charging of the capacitance, it charges towards VDD. So in place of V, we can substitute here VDD. This charging and discharging takes place multiple number of times. Here multiple number of times within the duration T. So here the T FSW is substituted here for maximum range. So C into VDD squared and this T get cancelled and remaining is FSW. So P dynamic is equivalent to C times VDD squared FSW. So this is a dynamic power equation. So from this we are moving for the important factor calculation, that is activity factor. Activity factor is nothing but is a measure of the switching activity, that is how frequently output switching takes place. In the initial case, we are writing this P dynamic equation in terms of FSW. So now we are talking about the clock frequency F. So we are going to write the P dynamic in terms of what? F. So for that we are going to calculate the alpha, that is nothing but measure of how frequently output switching takes place. So it is relate FSW with F by multiplying it with alpha, that is activity factor. So on substituting FSW to the previous equation, so you will be getting alpha times C into VDD squared F. Instead of FSW, we are substituting it into alpha F. So that's about the short circuit power dissipation. Now we are moving with short circuit power. Previously we have seen about the dynamic power discussion. Now we are moving with short circuit power discussion. So here short circuit power is nothing but the series connected NMOS and PMOS is on at a particular time period. So in that path there is a direct path exists between the VDD to ground. So at that time there will be a small amount of current. That current we are called it as in short circuit current. It is otherwise called as in crowbar current. So this one will account for more than 20% of the total power dissipation. This short circuit power directly related to frequency of switching, that is FSW. As clock frequency increases, the frequency of transition increases. So the short circuit power dissipation also increases. So next topic that we are going to discuss is static power. Static power is consumed even when the chip is in off condition. Okay. The leakage effects, due to this leakage effect, this static power flows. So the leakage is due to the gate leakage, subthreshold current or drain junction leakage. So due to this, the static power dissipation takes place. Here, as the technology scaled down to a lower and lower value, so now it is on 1.25 nanometer technology, it is more and more number of transistors are inside that of single chip. Static power dissipation becomes more and more important in terms of leakage power. So the leakage is due to, these are all the second order effects, that is subthreshold leakage, reverse biased PN junction, channel punch through, oxide leakage, hot carrier tunneling effect, drain induced barrier lowering, gate induced drain leakage. So these are all the second order effects. This will lead to the static power dissipation. This can be avoided during the fabrication process itself. The next we are moving to reduce the power in terms of the following techniques, right? So here in order to reduce the power, we are calculating the dynamic power reduction and also the reduction in the static power. So dynamic power reduction and static power reduction can be carried out. First we will look out reduction of the dynamic power. As you know, this P dynamic that we have derived in the previous part, P dynamic is alpha times C into VDD squared into the clock frequency. Alpha, that is an activity factor, and C is the load capacitance, and F is a clock frequency, VDD is a supply voltage. So on lowering these parameter, you can able to get the low values of P dynamics. So there will be some constraint at which the terms of these terms are taken into an account for the reductions. So these are all the possible strategies for reducing the power. One is in alpha, reducing of alpha, that can be done with the help of clock gating and also put the transistor into sleep mode. Okay, and next by reducing the C values. Then reduce the VDD supply voltage and reduce F, that is clock frequency. We reduce the clock frequency to some extent. So thereby we can power down the dynamic gates. The next static power reduction can be carried out by the following various techniques. One is we can go for selectively usages of ratioed circuits. Ratioed circuit is one of the circuit families of static CMOS, so with which we can get the less leakage current, and also we can move with selectively use of low threshold NMOS and PMOS devices. Yes, low threshold NMOS and PMOS devices also will make the transistor to give less power, and also suitable leakage reduction techniques can also incorporated, that is stacked devices we can use, and also body bias and reduce of temperature. And these are all the methodology that we are going to discuss in few minutes, as like gate level design and low power architecture level design, algorithmic level power reduction, and RTL techniques for optimizing power. So these are all the methods that we are currently taken into an account for low power reductions. Now we will discuss about the gate level design. So here in gate level design, the signal switching activity of the circuit can be minimized by restructuring the circuit. For this gate level design minimization, this when we are signal switching activity is reduced, if you do this, we can able to get the area that may increase, right? So actually we are going to reduce the power, but with which we can have some improvement in the area also. During this phase of logic minimization, the objective function is to minimized is Pi into 1 minus Pi Ci. Pi is the probability that the node is at logic 1. Here I am listing out various approaches that can be carried out under gate level designs are technology mapping, phase assignment, pin swapping, glitching power handling, pre-computation, clock gating, input gating. So I am going to discuss with few of that approaches. One is technology mapping. What is technology mapping? Is nothing but while we are doing synthesis part, we are going to take some of the components or the RTL view slices from the library, that is IEEE library. So from this library we are going to get some of the lookup tables. That lookup table we are call it as in predefined gates. So when we take the gates from the library, we can call it as in technology. This term we are call it as in technology mapping. The objective is to minimize the total power dissipation by reducing the total switching activity. So with this technology mapping, we are going to reduce the switching activity. So in order to reduce this total switching activity, we can have an example of 4 input AND gate. This 4 input AND gate have some signal probability of A is having 0.2 and 0.2 and 0.2 for A and 0.2 for B, and while those of next 2 inputs, that is C and D, are assumed to be 0.5. And before going to see with an example, we should have some estimation of this activity factor. So here Pi denote the signal probability of node I, that is the probability that node I is at logic 1. So the probability that node I is at logic 0 will be 1 minus Pi. So from that we can estimate the activity factor, that is nothing but the product of Pi into 1 minus Pa. For completely random process, the logic 0 occurrence is taken as 0.5. Similarly, logic 1 occurrence is also taken as 0.5. So the activity factor is 0.5 into 0.5, you will be getting 0.25. Here, some of the signal probabilities of the basic gates are listed here. I think this equation may look like somewhat complex, but the process involved in this computation is actually very easy. And 2 is nothing but an AND gate with the two inputs A and B and output as F. Here the output will be 1 only when both the inputs are said to be 1. So the probability of the function output F will be 1 for both the inputs are 1. So the probability F, we can write the product of PA into PB. Similarly, we can calculate the probability of output R of two inputs. Inputs are here considered as A and B, and output is denoted as F. Here, probability of output will be 1 only when at least any one of the input is 1. So we cannot easily calculate the probability at output F equal to 1. Instead, we can go for the probability at the output F is equal to 0. So when the probability of F is equal to 0, here only when A and B are said to be 0. So when the A and B is said to be 0, that probabilities are 1 minus PA and 1 minus PB. So this is the probability for F is equal to 0 for AND 2 gates. So thereby the probability at the function F is equivalent to 1 will be 1 minus of this probability at logic 0. So we can write R2 function as 1 minus PA into 1 minus PB. Similarly, in AND 2, the signal probability of this gate is just opposite to that of what AND 2. So it is 1 minus PA and PB. Similarly, NOR 2 is opposite of R2. So it is 1 minus. So here it is 1 minus PA and 1 minus PB. This minus will not be there here. Similarly, for XR2 gate, PA into 1 minus PB plus 1 minus PA into PB. When we look out for AND 4, you will be having the probability of output function will be 1 for all these condition is said to be 1. So PA into PB, PC into PD. Similarly, for R4 is nothing but 1 minus PA, 1 minus PB, 1 minus PC, 1 minus PD. So this is for the probability for the F, OR gate output F at logic 0. The 1 minus of this will give the probability at F is equivalent to 1 for OR gate. So after calculating this signal probability, we are moving with an example of this technology mapping. Here we are considering this input of 4 input of AND gates, that is A, B, C, D here. This A, B, C, D of AND gate can be decomposed into these two circuits. One is with 3 levels of circuit stages, another one is with the 2 levels of circuit stages. So in the first circuit, we can have the probabilities, as I said, the probability of A, B, C, D here is listed out 0.2 and 0.2 and 0.5 and 0.5. You may have a doubt about how these probability have taken out. Actually, A is derived from some of the other circuits. So some other circuit is driving A. So here A will be the line A will be 1 for the percentage of 0.2 percentage, that is A will be 1, that is 20 percentage of the probability at line A will be 1, and the 80 percentage of the output will be 0. So similarly, B also taken from the some other circuits, that is that one will derive the B input. So the our B line will have the value 1 for 20%, and the remaining to the 80%, the value of B will be 0. So thereby we are taking it into 0.2 percentage. Similarly, C will be driven by some other circuit here. This frequency of switching is denoted with the C will have the value 1 of 0.5 percentage. That is 50 percentage of the probability is having the value 1, and 50 percentage probability the value of C will have the value what 0. Similarly for D. So thereby the signal probabilities of these gates are denoted as 0.2, 0.2, 0.5 and 0.5. Here by using that the formula, here we can see with this point probability of A, probability of P, B, and probability of C and D is listed here. And for this the PE is nothing but the value of output 1 only when PA and PB is said to be 1. So thereby we can have P is equal to PA into PB. So compute these values, 0.2 into 0.2, you will be having 0.04, and the switching activity for this alpha E is nothing but PE times, that is a product of the logic 1 as well as the logic 0. Is a multiplication of the logic 1 to occur, similarly not to occur. So here PE is 0.04 and 1 minus 0.04, it is 0.096. So 1 minus 0.04, it is 0.096. We will be having 0.0384. Similarly, PF is calculated. PF is nothing but PE into PC. PE into PC, that is 0.02. Similarly, substitute that PF value into the activity factor. PF times 1 minus PF will be having the activity factor value, that is 0.0196. Similarly, we can compute the value of G here. G is nothing but PF into PD, that is 0.01. On substituting this PG here, 1 minus PG, so we will be getting 0.0099. So in order to calculate the switching activity, so we are adding all these activity factors, PE, alpha E and alpha F and alpha G. So altogether you will be getting what, 0.0679. Similarly, for the second circuit, the two stages of the circuit of 4 input AND gate can be computed as AB, CD. So, you will be getting AB here, CD here. So, finally, we will be getting 4 input AND gates, that is A, B, C, D. So, the same calculation is carried out for calculation of alpha E, alpha F and alpha G. For alpha E, take the product PA and PB, and they will be getting 0.04. Similarly, probability of PF, you can take a PC and PD. PC is 0.5 and PD is 0.5. Will be getting 0.25 is the probability of F, and activity factor for this is 0.1875. The previous was 0.0384, and the PG is again computed is nothing but PE into PF, PE into PF. So the value is 0.01. On substituting this PG here for alpha G calculation, you will be getting 0.0099. In the both the cases, final expression is 0.0099, but the total switching activity is the sum of all the activities of alpha E, alpha F, alpha G. So on calculating all these three activity, you will be getting 0.2358. So comparatively with the previous, that is 0.0679, here you will be having 0.2358. Here, which one is lower? 0.0679 is lower. That is, the first circuit will give less switching activity. That is, this one will give the less switching activity than that of this two-stage 4 input AND gate. So that will give the 0.23 switching activity altogether. So, and another one important interesting note here is for this decomposition has greater delay. See here, the number of stages here are 3 and here is only 2. So as number of stages are increasing, the delay get increased, but less switching activity, less signal switching activity will be the result. So here is the trade-off. Here we have to decide which objective that you want, whether it is an delay or an area minimization. If you want to reduce the delay, you can improve the speed of operation of that circuit, or otherwise we can go for power reductions, that is the switching activity reduction. So that way you can aim for low power. So this is an example of technology mapping. So the 4 input AND gate is divided into 2, and with which this one will give the less switching activity and this one will give more switching activity, and but this one will give more delay than that of this one. So thereby trade-off is taken for your objective. So if the objective is what, power minimization, we can go for this, or if the objective is the delay reduction, we can go for this circuit, right? So next level of gate design is in phase assignment. So here also we are looking for the high activity nodes, that is the switching activity. Here consider A is changing many times. Here consider, let me have an assumption that A is switching frequently than this B. That means that A is switching more times, that is 0 and 1, the transition taken place many number of times. So thereby the switching activity of this A is considered as more than that of B. So when here we are using what, buffer, that is NOT gate. It's not a buffer, it's a NOT gate. This A, whenever A is switching frequently, the output of this NOT gate is also getting changed, right? The output of this AND gate is nothing but here A bar, and this one is B. So you will be getting A bar into B. Okay, in this phase assignment, we are going to restructure this gate. That is, instead of this AND with this NOT gate, we are going to replace it with NOR gate, and also changing this B value into B bar. Here same A is switching more frequently, but this term, this one is reduced. So one of the term, that is this gate is reduced. So we will be having only one high activity node, and here you will be having 2 high activity node. Here the performance of the circuit is not yet changed. See here, you will be getting, for OR gate, you will be getting A plus B bar, and take the complement A plus B bar the whole bar. So it is by using De Morgan law, A plus B bar the whole bar becomes A bar into B. So A bar B is the final output. In this circuit also will give A bar into B. But instead of this 2 high activity node, we are reducing into high activity node by restructuring this gate with NOR gate. So this is it, one of the way we can go for less switching activity. This is by using the method or a technology called phase assignment. We can have another example of this phase assignment. This high activity node, that is the same A is switching more times than B. Here we have an same NOT gate. So whenever A is getting changed, the output of NOT gate is also changing. So here we have 2 high activity node. This also getting changed frequently. Similarly, the output is also changing frequently. So here we have 2 high activity node. So this can be replaced with the similar circuit by adding the buffer at this B input, and output is taken with the inverting. The performance of the circuit is remains the same, but here we are reducing this 2 high activity node into 1 high activity node. So that way we are reducing the switching activity. This is the method called phase assignment in gate level. The another method we will see now here is pin swapping. Pin swapping can be illustrated with this 4 input NAND gate. So A, B, C, D is given as the input to this NAND gate. So in the NAND gate, 4 series transistor connected. Then on the top you will be having parallel connected PMOS. So here D is more switching than this A. And the D is having high switching activity, so thereby the red mark is on denoted on the top towards this. Here we are going to change this switching activity, more high switching activity to the lower. Why? Because when switching activity is more for this circuit, there will be an internal capacitance here that is connected, that also getting changed. So thereby this one will affect the next circuit similarly to the next and also to the next. So thereby the change of the capacitance taken place here when we are connected the high switching activity gate to this point. So thereby we are moving the high switching activity towards the bottom of this NMOS transistor, that is the at the end of this ground point, which one, this one is having higher switching activity and it goes on. So this one will have the less switching activity, so thereby we can reduce the capacitance effect. So in that way the switching activity is changed from the higher to lower into lower to higher. So this type of gate level design we are call it as in pin swapping methods. So the next we are going to see about the clocking gate. So for here clocking gate, we can see about the power dissipation in a circuit is very much dependent on the signal transition activity, that is in alpha. Clock is a signal which works like a brain of the entire system. So whenever the clock transition takes place, all the circuit elements they work in synchronism. Clock is triggering the activities in various parts of the circuit. If you feel that there is one part of the circuit which is not being used currently, why not switch off the clock entirely from the part? So that at least of that part the signal switching activity will stop. So the power consumption will become less. This is the basic idea behind the clock gating. So when it is not used, we are going to reduce or deactivate that gate. So for example, here the functional unit is not working nor it is not frequently used, means with the help of an additional circuit we can make this functional unit to inactive. So this can be done with an extra control logic, that is disable input is here given. Whenever the disable input is 1, this is an OR gate, so whenever it is 1 the output will be 1. So this 1 is given to the register. This register is loading that 1 to the functional unit. So we are giving constant 1 to the functional unit. So thereby we are making constant 1 to this functional unit. Thereby there is no switching activity taken place in this functional unit. So thereby we are making this functional unit to what? Inactive stage. So this can be done done with the help of this additional circuits. So this additional circuit may consumes complexity and also area. So this also taken care while we are testing a particular circuit. So when we are testing, this component cannot be used. The test engineers not encourage this part of deactivation part when this particular functional unit is in inactive mode. Okay, so these are all the previous ones so far we have discussed is the gate level design for low power reduction. So in that way we can have low power reduction either by the restructuring or by using logic minimization or by clock gating. We can reduce the power in gate level design, that is in terms of gate level. Now we are moving to low power architectural level design. In architectural level, that is bottom up design, the parallel processing is taken for consideration, and also pipelining, retiming, power management and bus segmentation is the more frequently used architecture for low power design. So in architectural level, we are so before going to see about the architectural level, we can have an voltage reduction. So the voltage reduction can also be carried out by using this power rails of voltage levels of this rails. That is, the slow devices will work on with a low voltage rails, and fast devices may take this power rails of this orange color. So when we are dividing the power rail into the two separate lines, one is for slow devices and another one is for fast devices, in that we can reduce the voltage reduction. So now we are going to see the architectural level, that too in the device level minimization. So device level is nothing but, normally in VLSI, the device we are call it as in transistors. In for that transistor, we are talking about the CMOS technology. CMOS, that you know, it is in series combination of both the PMOS and NMOS. So with that CMOS, we can have two types. One is static CMOS and dynamic CMOS. Static and dynamic is also having some of the circuit families, right? So here, instead of using only the CMOS circuit, here the full adder circuit is designed using not only by CMOS but the hybrid of CMOS. That is, hybrid means that here I am taking that example of pass transistors and transmission gate along with the CMOS families. I am taking here the full adder as an example. Full adder plays a vital role in the DSP applications. For any multiplication, we are going for the addition operations. So multiplication can be done with a repeated addition. For any DSP circuit, the multiplication cannot be done directly. Instead, it will use what addition circuits. So thereby, full adder design is a major design part in VLSI circuit. So in the full adder design, I am using 26 transistors. With this 26 transistors, the device architecture is analyzed. So the 26 transistor full adder here is drawn with a cadence tool, and the performance of this hybrid full adder. Hybrid is nothing but it's a fusing of static CMOS as well as the circuit families of the static CMOS. So here I have taken transmission gate as an another circuit family along with the CMOS. Okay, here the performance of this full adder is compared for all the values of ABC 0 0 0. You will be getting sum and carry. Sum is 0 here, carry out is also 0. For the next possibilities of ABC, that is A is 0, B is 0 and C is 1. 0 0 1, you will be getting sum 1 and carry 0. For the next combination 0 1 0. Any one of the input is 1, sum is 1, right? So here only one input is 1, sum is 1 and carry is 0. And this next combination, that is 0 1 1, sum is 0 and carry is 1. When two inputs are 1, the carry is 1 and the sum is 0. That is, next possibilities, that is 1 0 0, sum is 1 and carry is 0. So similarly, for all the possibilities, the performance of this full adder is verified with that simulation output. Simulation is nothing but an waveform representation. This 26 transistor will give the performance for all the possibilities of ABC starting from 0 0 0 to the 1 1 1. For 1 1 combination, both the sum output as well as the carry outputs are 1. So the performance wise, this 26 transistor is correct in function. So next, this after moving into this 26 transistor, I have taken this 20T transistor of hybrid full adder. This 20T transistor is again taken and drawn with a schematic circuit, and also its performance is taken from the simulation window of cadence. Here also all the possibilities are verified, that is A, B, C inputs are given, that is A, B, C. So A is in this color, orange in color, and B is in red color, and the C is in pink color. So for these three inputs, the performance of the sum and carry is calculated for all the possibilities of A, B, C, and the performance here is verified with the simulations. Now the simulation will give the correct of full adder design. Then we are taken this report of power as well as the delay. So here the power of hybrid full adder of 26 transistor, 20T transistor and 22T transistors are taken and it is plotted here. Among this, 26 transistor will give the less power than that of what this 20 and 22 transistors. So this is a device level minimizations. When we are talking about this 26 transistor, average power consumption is less. Similarly, we can have another results. This 20T transistor will give what less delay comparatively with this 26 transistor and 22 transistor. Again, there is a trade-off. For the speed application, speed is a criteria. We can go for 20T transistor, and the average power is in requirement is your requirement. Then we can go for 26T transistor architecture design. So this is a device level implementation. So here the devices we are using it as a what hybrid full adder along with the CMOS family. I am taken in terms of what the transmission gate as an added one. So with the help of this hybrid full adder, we can have the reduction in the power, and also if we want to increase the speed of this, we can go for any methods, right? So next one method is for low power reduction is algorithmic level reduction. In algorithmic level reductions, we can go for binary code or gray code. So here in algorithmic level, normally we can go for gray code equivalent. So here gray code will give the less F activity, that is the switching activity. See here, all the possibilities of the decimal number is written in terms of 3 bits, like 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, likewise up to 1, 1, 1. So the corresponding gray code equivalent is written here. So gray code is an unidistance code, only 1 bit is changing at a time. But here is not 1 bit is changing, and see here, for every sequence only 1 bit is changing. For this to this only 1 bit is changing, and for this to this 1 bit is changing. This one remains constant and this one is changing, and from this to this is changing, and these two are remains unchanged. Similarly, from this to this is same, this is same, and only this bit is changing. Similarly, from this to this, you will be having this changes 0 to 1, and these two are remains unchanged. So this is a gray code equivalent, that is only 1 bit is changing at a time. So thereby switching activity is reduced comparatively with the binary code. So thereby we can go for this gray code. So for example, in the encryption and decryption transmission of data, instead of going for this binary data, we can go for this level of coding, that is unit distance coding. So thereby in communication area, we can go for coding, that is encoding scheme in terms of this unit distance rather than by binary coding. So thereby we can have less switching activity, thereby less power, that is power reduction taken place. Similarly, the next criteria for power reduction is efficient code writing. So if it is an expert design engineer, okay, expert programming engineer, they can write the code in a well-versed manner, right? So this is a simple decoder. The simple decoder is written only with the input. Okay, they only with the input they are going to select the inputs. Okay, select the inputs. But with that expert engineer or programming writer, we can write the decoder operation with an enable input. Only when this enable input is 1, we can have this selection process, or otherwise this decoder will not work. So thereby we can reduce the signal gating. So in that way we can reduce what? The switching activity. Finally, I will conclude this with the ultra low power system design. So for this we can go for any methods. So start with the technology. So if the technology comprised of threshold reduction, that is voltage reduction, that we have seen already. So voltage is reduced means automatically the power can get reduced. So, and the circuit and the logic level minimization can also be done for low power. Here the sizing of the transistor, as I said earlier, so 26 transistor and 20T transistors, and also the nanoscale reduction technology reduction also will give the circuit level minimization. So in that we can reduce the power. Also with an architectural level, that is parallelism, pipelining, and redundancy. Redundancy is nothing but repeated information. So instead of the switching transition, we can have the constant terms, so thereby we can have this less power. Also in algorithmic level reductions, and also the system level reductions. For all these levels of abstractions, we can have low power techniques. You can have any design abstractions. We can aim for the reduction in the low power. So this is that way we can reduce the low power. So here, as I said, this logic styles. Okay, the logic styles is in terms of what conventional CMOS adder, or it may be an optimized static adder. Actually, this static adder will have minimum of 32 transistors or 28. Okay. Now, so far we have discussed is 28 transistor and 20 transistors. Nowadays, they are working with the 14T and below that too. So, and then another choice of logic style is dynamic cascade voltage switch logic, and also CPL is nothing but complement pass transistor logic. So pass transistor, we have NMOS and PMOS pass transistor logic. So these are all the logic styles that we can use it. Again, here already the VLSI is working under under 3.3 nanometer technology, that is 1.25 nanometer technology, with with the help of the cadence. So here this one can also be reduced with the help of the nanomaterial now. Instead of going for CMOS, so the CMOS is fabricated in terms of what? Silicon. So instead of going for this silicon, we can go with some other material selections, that is nanotube carbon or the graphene. So with which we can have what? The flexible mode of devices. So nowadays we are having the standalone devices, that is it is not flexible. So we can, in the future generation, we can have all the devices in terms of flexible nature. So that can also be done with low power. For that, there is an vast area to be to be calculated for low power reductions in future generations. So here ends my presentation. Thank you all for watching this webinar. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Navadita ma'am. It was a wonderful and informative session. Concluding the session with vote of thanks, I request Mr. P. Kannan, Assistant Professor of ECE Department, to deliver vote of thanks.
Good morning, all of you. It is a great honor to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. At the outset, I thank the resource person, Mrs. M. Navanitha Velammal, for having presented the webinar on emerging trends and solutions for low power VLSI circuit. Ma'am, on behalf of ECE department, I thank you for your wonderful webinar. Next, I thank the management for their guidance and motivations to organize the webinars during this lockdown to make our students and other participants enrich their knowledge in relevant fields. And my sincere thanks to Dr. K. Jayakumar, General Manager Development, and Dr. V. Velmurugan, Principal, and Professor Ella Priya, Professor Academic, Francis Xavier Engineering College, for their support. Further, I take this opportunity to thank Professor Friska, Head of the Department, for valuable advice and direction towards making this webinar in a grand success. I thank the coordinators of this event and all the faculty members of ECE department. And finally, my sincere gratitude to all the participants for your active participation. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.